Cineverb.
Hello, and welcome to Cineverb, a weekly podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria,
And I'm David.
and this week on episode 40, we're discussing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and written by Dave Callahan, Destin Daniel Cretton, and Andrew Lanham. And here's the synopsis. Shang-Chi must confront the past he thought he left behind when he is drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization. All right, so I think I should probably start this because I think I'm going to be way warmer than you are. So
go ahead.
You can burn it all down when I'm done.
Nah.
Let's see. So I went into this film with no real expectations at all. Just based on the trailers and what I was assuming this film would be, I was like, oh man, this is probably going to be bad. Just with the history and context of the other Marvel films, I feel like I'm kind of like burned out on them, and the repetition, especially with the origin films, they kind of wear me out. But I think, and this is like an epiphany I had just like a couple hours ago, because I had a great time in this film. Probably like some of the most fun I've had in the theater all year. And it just felt like I was a kid again. And then I was just thinking about it today, like, why did I enjoy that film so much? Like, I was trying to like figure out like why it hit me so hard. And I realize, and this is weird because I've never experienced it before, and I hear everyone talking about it. And I think this was the first time I've ever felt nostalgia, like in my life, like ever.
In your entire life.
Yeah, like I have never experienced the feeling of nostalgia. Like I can understand it.
Whoa.
And I can but I've never felt it myself. Like I think it's because when I was little, I had very little things that I cared about or loved. And this film, I realized I have a very deep nostalgia for like Asian culture and just Asian cinema. And I mean, basically anything Asian. Like that's like when I was growing up, my father would always play Jackie Chan movies. Mm-hmm. So like that was kind of like the earliest films that I ever watched. And then the first TV show I ever watched was Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. And just the plot and the tropes and the cliches of like what Dragon Ball Z kind of instilled in me. Like I remember like one of my earliest memories of wanting to be a writer was like me imagining my version of Dragon Ball Z. And that's been like the peak pinnacle, like penultimate goal in my life or dream is like one day I want to make a live action Dragon Ball Z film, because that like series just like it's just like ingrained in my memories or whatever. And it's weird because I haven't revisited Dragon Ball Z. I don't like anime for the most part, and I haven't revisited a lot of Jackie Chan films. So like seeing this film and seeing how they pulled off some of the kung fu in it and some of the hand-to-hand combat, and then I guess the Dragon Ball Z part is like the magical, like fantasy lore and mythology that they kind of dip into, really like triggered those feelings for me. So I was having a fucking blast, and I also had like 2 Jack and Cokes, so I was I was having a great time. So those are my initial impressions. What did you get from the film?
Oh man. Well, let me just start off positive, like the things that I liked about it and enjoyed. I really liked the creature design. I think that was one of the things that I truly just genuinely enjoyed, like all the different little creatures, the big creatures, the small creatures. I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, it's like all of them are China based, and they were just pulling out all the classic creatures that you think of from Chinese mythology, and so it's not like it was anything original, but I mean it was interesting. well done, I guess. And um, I liked the special effects of the rings and how they operated and worked, and just thinking like, oh, if someone had to like think about all that, oh, what's the physics? What are the physics of these rings and the powers exactly that they bestow? And so I appreciated that as well. But pretty much everything else about the movie, I was just like, ah, like I was bored most of the movie, to be honest. And I
Yeah.
kind of just wanted the movie to be over because I just thought, I don't know, it felt really, everything besides what I just mentioned about the movie felt really lazy. Like they just copy and paste into the scripts and the characters. And um, the only character I really found semi interesting was the dad character at first. But then they sort of, I'm not going to spoil anything, but they sort of ruined him with how stupid he was at the end. I don't know. I didn't buy it. It was one of those like things where I was like, this character wouldn't be this stupid. Don't know another word to say it. But I don't know. And then the action, like the fight scenes, I just blurred my eyes. I just felt my eyes crossing and just like, for some reason, and it is, I guess my bias is the opposite of yours. Like I've never been a big fan of like kung fu movies and stuff. But I mean, there are some good ones that I really like Ip Man. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
There's ones that are like, and that I saw were, the makers of this film obviously used as influences, but I just felt like overall this movie didn't add anything new to that genre at all, and just kind of like you pointed out. I mean, it kind of takes all of these elements from different things, like
Yeah.
I don't know much of them, but at times I was like, oh yeah, that's like whatever. She's like an airbender, and oh, like that's like Dragon Ball Z, and oh look, it's a Pokemon, It's like you just see all these different elements, and it's like, yeah, okay, they're just pulling from all the sources, and all the things that they think would be familiar to the average moviegoer, and they're putting it all in this little world that they're creating, but. It just, again, like Marvel movies are becoming more and more, it's just like, or Disney just in general, just like, oh wow, like I recognize that, oh I recognize that, and that's what you're supposed to do the whole movie, and that's supposed to be like the entertainment from the movie is just, wow, look at that, I recognize that, and that's it, and that's all the movie has. It doesn't offer anything new, doesn't do anything. Like the core things of a movie are like cinematography, story, characters, and it doesn't do anything interesting with any of those in this movie, in my opinion. So I was just kind of like left, just it's just a big meh to me. But yeah,
Yeah.
now that I've finished just just being a downer, what do you want to say?
That's interesting. Like I feel like on the previous Marvel film, Black Widow.
Yeah,
I feel like we agreed for the most part on those same topics.
yeah.
And that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking today, like it feels like like I don't know if it's the nostalgia. Like it's making me reevaluate what Marvel does, like what a Marvel film is.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's like I don't know. It's like they're pinpointing certain interests in people. Like I remember in the Black Widow review, you mentioned like I hope like they can start making more distinct films, and then I was like, oh, they'll never do that. and for some reason, this one feels very distinct. Like,
Okay.
and I get how you're because it is an amalgamation of like a lot of Asian references and stuff, but for some reason, for me as a viewer and like as a person who's grown up with those things in here felt very wholesome and like heartfelt and warm, and it felt like I was having a conversation with like a best friend, like me and this director like had the same interests,
Mm.
And it's so weird because like I'm saying, I've never experienced nostalgia before, so I was just like, oh, this is made for me. And now I'm starting to understand like what the magic of Marvel for certain individuals is like. Once they hit your interest,
Yeah.
it's like a gold mine. You know, it's like a lottery ticket into that viewer's brain. And for me, this film was that experience. You know, like I know a lot of people and have friends who like watched Avengers Endgame or Infinity War and like literally cried in certain parts of the film because it was that rush of emotions. And like I could like logically understand it, you know, like think like how that works and how that would feel. But there was like an amount of disbelief, like, well, I'll never feel that because I guess I just don't care about enough things or whatever. But then in this film, like I didn't cry, but I just felt so overwhelmingly excited to see all these characters, to see the fantasy, to see the action, to see like all these things that I've loved kind of like represented in a way. And I don't know, it's just strange. Like, is it only because of my nostalgia that they're valuable, or are they valuable and it's if you do not enjoy those pieces, then it's not valuable to you. So it's like
Yeah.
changing my thinking of is is the Marvel film like is it more the viewer than the actual piece? I
Well,
guess is like what I'm trying to like.
I think what you said about like the Avengers movies, like those were more earned because the emotion that people felt, it seemed like, was because the they'd spent so much time with those characters and they built up this huge arc story, since
Yeah.
like 2008 or whatever when Iron Man came out. So that makes sense to me, but because it's earned. But nostalgia in movies is just, to me, it's just cheap. Like it's easy. It's
Yeah.
like it's the easy thing to do. So I don't know. I don't feel. I'm trying to think of the only the only counter example I can think of is like Quentin Tarantino, how he puts together, references from a bunch of movies that he personally used to like, and he puts those in movies in a new and interesting way that I guess if you were his exact person, if you were him, you would feel a lot of nostalgia while you're watching it, but it also works for people who don't know all the references because it's
Yeah.
just, but with this kind of just pulling things from other kung fu movies and Asian media, it just feels very easy and cheap. It doesn't feel like the creators, like, actually they're doing it out of passion. It feels too calculated to me. It just feels too
Mm.
cynical the way that I mean, and obviously knowing that it's Disney doing this and not just Quentin Tarantino or whatever. It's like this is a huge corporation doing this, and it's
Yeah.
just too easy to see I don't know, see all the board meetings and all the groups of people that had to decide all these things and bring all these references in and yeah, I don't know. It just feels, and I'm confused why I liked Black Widow more than, say, this movie. Like, I'm confused
Yeah.
by that also. Honestly, I was thinking, the more I think about it, I'm like, should I think about downgrading my rating for Black Widow the more I think about it, just because of the writing and I don't know, lots of things that didn't work well. But still, for some reason, that gave me more of that glimmer of hope for the future. What I was thinking was more like, well, I probably did say like certain taking genres and making it their own, like the spy kind of movie. But I
Yeah.
was thinking more like just personal movies that are more contained, which I guess this one does kind of qualify as that because it's just like about a family, a single family. But then it has the element of like, oh, saving the world, and but so did Black Widow. So I don't know. Honestly, maybe the Marvel formula is just like there's no future for it. They're just gonna I don't know. There's no way that they can break out of that formula. Certain things just have to be in their movies. So
Yeah.
even if they try to do more like totally different genres or whatever, like it's still gonna feel just so dull, like a Marvel movie. I don't know.
And see, that's I guess that's my argument against against you is that I felt like this was completely valid. like I honestly feel the writers and directors of this piece and the stars, and like I don't know, this whole thing felt way more like a love letter than I was even anticipating. Like I like even like if I'm removing the nostalgia, like I've been thinking about the film all day, and I'm like I love the writing. Like the writing hit for me.
What?
Like
Are you
all
serious?
yeah, like
Oh
all the
man.
emotional beats, I
Oh
was
my god.
game. The
Dude.
performances, I love
Uh,
Simu Liu. I love Aquafina. Like
Oh god,
she's
no.
amazing to me.
Oh no.
Tony Long, who's the villain. Also, like this is probably my favorite villain of all the Marvel films. I mean, like it's just it. I mean, this like I'm at the point where I'm thinking like this is by far my favorite origin film uh, of any Marvel. Like maybe Iron Man's right under it, and I don't know, dude. Like it like even the technical things I loved. Like I think visually, like the cinematography in this film, I enjoyed. I like the shot designs. I mean, the way they filmed the kung fu and the action is probably like the best uh, kung fu I've seen in any American film that tries to actually do the kung fu
Mhm.
versus like John Wick is more like mixed martial arts
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like this is the closest I feel like an American film has gotten, and yeah, I mean it just hits everything for me. Like it's crazy. Like I fucking had a blast. I mean the whole auditorium was like jam packed with uh, like the Delta variant just spreading around. But yeah, I mean I even felt like the audience was really like game for it. Like the action sequences, like it's in the trailer, but there's like this big bus fight scene,
Mhm.
and I immediately had that negative like, oh, this is gonna last 10 seconds or max 50 seconds, because like most like Western films, when there's a hand to hand fight scene, it's very short lived, and the way it's edited and cut together just bores me and annoys me and gives me a headache. But I mean, to Destin Daniel Cretton's uh, work here, like I feel like he maintains like a wider eye when he's doing the combat, which to me I was like, oh my god, this guy actually like understands how to film this stuff, and he's like never filmed an action film before. So the amount of practice he must have done to prepare, like I mean it's very competent. And I mean like Bill Pope is the cinematographer. He works a lot with Tarantino and Edgar Wright. I mean, or no, not Tarantino. Edgar Wright and the Wachowskis. Like he did the three Matrix films, and I don't know
Oh.
if maybe in the theater, I'm it was just more visually appealing because it was such a large screen. But dude, I loved it. Like even the music, like I typically hate.
Whoa.
I was thinking back about Black Panther, the action sequences, they would always like immediately begin with some like rap song. And I remember I was like, oh man, like another rap song. But for some reason in this film, like I actually enjoyed it and it like got me hype. Like it's crazy, man. I think even outside of everything, I still think it was a great film. Like just the form of it.
Yeah, I just felt I'm just trying to think of all the, like real quick. I mean, just honestly, the writing was like the weakest part of this movie, like in my opinion. I'm super surprised that you mentioned that. I mean, the acting, I guess it's subjective, but I thought Aquafina was just annoying and not needed at all in this movie, really, except that Marvel has to have the comic relief every 10 minutes. And then the what's that actor's name that plays the actor character in
Oh,
this?
the main character, Simulu,
No, the
the
actor,
villain.
the old actor guy.
Oh,
God,
Tony Long.
where am I? I'm not seeing him in this cast. No, like the British actor guy.
Oh, Ben Kingsley.
Yes, thank you. Oh
Yeah.
God, like his character, although he's a great actor and everything, what like just totally just a totally unnecessary character. So that just felt useless to me, his entire character. And then oh yeah, the writing just, I mean, cinematography, I just I didn't notice anything different than all the other Marvel movies. The
Yeah.
music, I didn't notice anything different than all the other Marvel movies, except that I felt like some of the non-score song choices were just random, just felt kind of random to me. I don't know, there wasn't like a cohesive feeling to the songs that they put in the movie. It just felt that's the best, they just felt random. And then yeah, I don't know. That's about all.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel anything
Oh
from but
man.
particularly the writing. I want to get into that with you because like throughout the whole movie I was like, God, this is so weak. This is so
Yeah.
weak sauce. It feels like they just put the script together as an afterthought. And I don't know. It's like it feels like they had the whole movie storyboarded and then they had to write a script. Like that's what it felt like. So
Oh no.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So we'll get into that into the spoilers where we can
yeah.
actually discuss the details. So I
Mhm.
guess what would you rate this out of 10 then?
It's a 5 out of 10. It's just
Oh man.
it's just a movie. It's not like I hate it, but it's
Yeah.
just that I personally I kind of hate it, but I don't think it's a movie that most people will hate. I think it's just like just as I always say, it's just a movie you just sit down, cross your eyes, and turn your brain off, and just let the stimuli hit your eyes and your ears, and just sit back and relax, and that's it.
So
There's,
so
I
would
don't
you
know.
would you put this above Black Widow or below it?
Oh God, no, because I gave Black Widow a 6. So
Okay.
I'm putting it below it for some reason, even though it's more color. Like, I guess, I don't know. Just Black Widow had more. It felt like they took a little bit more risks in some areas,
Mm-hmm.
and but like I said, I'm even thinking about like that. I might would downgrade Black Widow from a 6 to a 5, and these would just be on equal footing. But because I guess that's just because I feel like Marvel is just not going in a good direction. But I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, my final thoughts are, I guess one thing I forgot to mention at the top is I also just love to see like a full Asian cast and like Asian directors and writers, like putting it together. I
Mhm.
think like I was thinking the other day, uh, oddly enough, it was like Logan Paul was like he was like speaking out about like uh better pay for like boxers and stuff,
Okay.
and like the Twitter headline was like, "We have the worst messenger, but the message is good," you know. And
Yeah.
I was thinking that about Disney because I was like, man, I really like this film. Like I thought it was great. And then I was thinking like, yeah, maybe the messenger has bad intentions and has like a financial goal. Like I
Mhm.
wouldn't doubt that they check. I mean, for sure they have metrics and they whatever analysis and data that they use. But I still think like I am happy this film exists. I'm happy the directors and the writers of Asian descent got to make an Asian film. Like as bad as the messenger could be or as restricting as they can be, like the message can still be good in a broken machine, I guess.
Yeah.
Because for me, like it hit all those warm spots, and it's just so shocking to me that like I was watching this movie and I was like, man, this is so nice. Like just seeing like Asian faces on a big screen, and like it just felt different, and like that's kind of like the depressing part of it is that seeing an Asian or a full Asian cast or an Asian main character that's not like a trope or just a sidekick or whatever racist thing. Like that like this is the exception instead of it being normal. And then I'm like, God, like why can't just more films dig into the Asian culture? Because there's so many like nationalities and experiences that are so unique that I just feel like in the specifically like in the Hollywood film system,
Yeah.
it's like so overlooked. Like I feel like out of all the groups, I feel like the Asian representation's like the worst. Like the only other movie that I can remember had a full Asian cast was like uh, Crazy Rich Asians. And I remember watching that and also being like it's a typical rom-com, but just because it has this like Asian twist, it felt unique and it felt like more impactful than if it was just like a typical rom-com with whatever American actress and actor that, you know, we see on every billboard every other day. So I don't know. I just hope this like opens the door for more like Asian films or Asian created films, just like I feel like Black Panther kind of did. And I don't know. I'm down for it. Like I don't know what they're gonna do next, but I'm excited. Like if this like one thing that I I thought immediately after watching the movie was like, man, if this director were to be announced to make a Dragon Ball Z film, I would start crying. Like I would literally start crying.
Yeah.
But with all that ramble, I will give this film an 8 out of 10. I thought it was great. Probably like my third, like it's top 3 Marvel for me. Like I'm just over the moon with it. And I don't know. I think if anyone likes like the Asian culture stuff that I mentioned before, like with Kung Fu and Dragon Ball Z or anything like that, I think you would probably have a good experience like me. If not, you'll probably have like a 5 out of 10 experience like David. But anyways, that concludes our review portion of Shang-Chi. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And you can also check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com. Okay, so let's begin with the spoilers. Would you want to start with the writing, the plot points that bothered
I guess.
you?
Just yeah, I didn't write many notes on this movie because I was just kind of
Okay.
but I mean, it was just there was just so many cliches, like where I was just like, this story, it's almost like they're designing it to be boring because I feel like almost every element of this story I've seen before. Nothing surprised me. Like it was just like, okay, whatever. Family divided, dad evil, son not sure whether to follow dad or not. Oh God, where have I seen that before? Darth Vader, Star Wars. Okay, I don't know. Like the next story that you really get in the movie is when he's being guided through the village, and they're explaining. Oh well, let me just say the very beginning of the movie. I'm just like, God, this feels like the beginning of like Lord of the Rings, where it's just like, oh, thousands of years ago we had the legend of the blah blah blah, and we got and even the rings, and and the just medieval theme, and it's like they're showing a battle that I don't care about, and I'm just like, okay, he's got these rings, I don't know, just nothing about that. The family flashbacks were all just like, God, I've seen this in just like a million movies before. The whole training montage for fucking hitting him on the side with sticks and punching the wall until his knuckles bleed. It's just like, Jesus Christ, this stuff, like, just do something different, just anything, just do something different. The whole, I don't know, even the other specific things like the mom giving them the gift, that then allows them to unlock the path to her secret village. It's just like, even the whole village aspect. I was like, I haven't seen Black Panther, but it's like, isn't this just like Asian Wakanda? Like, we have a secret village and we are the defenders of the world. The world doesn't know about us, but we're actually keeping the world safe from this danger, and then it's just but you know what I'm saying, like, just like almost every aspect of this movie. Well, the whole like guiding him through the tunnel and like, oh, our village has protected, and having the little mosaic pictures, telling the story of how all these, the monsters came out, but we protected them with the dragons and put them back in. I was getting Rain of Fire, which is a good movie. Get Rain of Fire feelings with the dragons fighting,
Yeah.
and I was just like, God, there's nothing here. Like, there's nothing that I haven't. I've never seen. I've never seen dragons with tentacles, I guess, that suck souls out of people.
Yeah.
That's new, but that's just combining things that. So I'm just like, oh God, I don't know. What do you feel? What do you feel stood out to you about the writing that you really liked?
Yeah, so to defend a little bit on what you are mentioning, like I guess like I mean technically any piece of writing is would generally be a trope or of something that was done before. So I
Is
guess
that
like
true
it,
though? That I mean, that's the challenge. You're right. Yeah, yeah. Everything's a
so
remix, but it's
well what I
like,
was gonna say is that it's all about the execution. So like I guess
yeah,
for you the execution of these cliches just didn't work, but for me they did work. Like I liked the village because it felt like a distinct voice. Like it felt like part of the culture. You know, when they're showing like the shrines, like you're talking about, and talking about history. You know, like that's like a big thing for like assuming this is leaning more Chinese. So let's just run with that. So it's
yeah,
like you know, like they have shrines and their lore and their mythology is like intertwined with beliefs and you know it's like it's way more unified so like that stuff I was totally game for and like I have seen it but I haven't seen a lot of this stuff in a long time like I mean I haven't really seen a lot of films deal with like Chinese fantasy since you know like I can't even remember the last one like it's always more like an anime and manga and stuff or just like really older films. So like Hollywood wise, I feel like a lot of this stuff was new for me. And then shit, what did you ask? Oh, like what were the plot points that stood out to me? So I really liked the emotional arc of the villain. Like I really enjoyed how he like I was confused when the film kind of started and it was like he's this bad guy who's like slaughtered thousands of people and then he finds this woman and then I love how that had that like, you know, references to like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
mm-hmm.
I love that like little fight scene. And like that's what I was talking about like the choreography. Like it looks like it's inspired from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but it still feels way more authentic than I think it had any like real right to be. Like I feel like the general Disney Marvel machine that you're like talking about would have done all that in like extreme close-ups and uh, like it would have been cut together like a normal Western film, but that whole sequence and like all the fight sequences, I'd argue, feel way more authentic and grounded than I've seen in any Marvel film. Like all the fight scenes in this film were like bar none better than any other fight scene in any other Marvel film. And like the hand-to-hand combat in this did more for me than like any battle in any of the Avengers films or any of the other Marvel films. Like I felt more excitement watching the bus fight than like any other action set piece thus far. And like I guess that's part of my nostalgia for kung fu films.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also it's like because it takes so much technique and it's like it's craft, you know, like it's having the stunt coordinators and the actors, it's having the camera on point, it's having the editing, you know, hit. Like I feel like all those things are like technically very difficult. Like for that intro scene with the evil guy and the wife character, like like it looked like they were on, you know, like your old school like ropes or
Yeah,
you know like how they would like you know do the like it didn't look like CGI, and that's what shocked me because like in the trailers it was all the CGI parts, which those were the parts that I didn't like the ending just turned into like a CGI battle,
yeah,
which I didn't enjoy. Uh, but yeah, like it's just it surprised me that they actually used wire work when in every other Marvel film, like the immediate answer is CGI for like everything, even like the simple stuff. It's like there's CGI everywhere, and in
yeah,
this one, like the actual fight between the main character and any antagonist or villain, there was way more detail to it to attention to detail than like I've seen, and I was like, oh man, well maybe this is like maybe under the right creators, Marvel can, you know, kind of mold to the creator's vision.
yeah, I don't know, like that first fight scene, for instance. Yeah, I was just like, oh god, this is just Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon
Yeah.
style movements and fighting, and I didn't like that. The set felt, or whatever, green screen set that they were on, like just felt really fake, and I didn't like it for some reason. And then the kung fu stuff, just maybe that's just not my style of fighting, but it's
Yeah.
just so boring to me. Like I don't know, like lots of fight scenes in movies I like. It's like it's not like I'm like a it's not like I just hate fight scenes or something. It's just that specifically kung fu just looks so boring when you're watching it, unless I guess you're a kung fu expert or something and you know what they're doing. But it's kind of like, I guess some people think of this like a like the Star Wars prequels. How, I don't know, some people criticize some of the Star Wars prequels or whatever, the lightsaber battles. It's like it was just like two people, constantly just banging their swords together, basically just over and over real fast.
Yeah.
But what I've read about the Star Wars prequels is that they actually were specifically doing an actual like real style of sword fighting, that they wanted to make it look that way. And so it's
Yeah.
very technical. It's very technical, and it took them forever to train and to fight that way. But on the screen, it's boring as fuck. It just looks like two people just, really in fast motion hitting their swords together, and that's it. Like the newer Star Wars movies did a totally different style that is way more entertaining. Like for all the faults, like the new Star Wars sequels, like the fighting style is totally different, and it's very dynamic, and it's entertaining to watch. But like kung fu, to me, it's like watching the prequel,
Yeah.
lightsaber fights, where yes, it's very technical. Yes, I appreciate the art of kung fu or whatever, but it's super boring to watch because it's just I don't know how to describe it. It's like two guys standing right next to each other, just playing patty cake or whatever with their hands, and just doing their hands back and forth and back and forth and back and forth at 100 miles an hour in a way that, unless they'd rehearsed it, there's no way that this would actually happen in real life. So it's just kind of like boring. You're just like, oh, this is just like a dance. Like they're just dancing,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Yeah. I mean, that I would argue, and I guess anyone who likes kung fu would argue, is that's exactly like what you don't like about it is
Yeah, is what people like about it.
Yeah, because it is a dance. Like kung fu and martial arts, it's literally like the people who love it and understand it and who want to learn it and enjoy seeing it see it as a form of expression. And
Yeah.
like I know you probably got that from like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like in those, it's very emotional based, and I feel like in this one, like it's obviously not as good as some legit kung fu films. I guess my argument is that it's more legit than I thought it would ever be coming out of a Hollywood film. And yeah, like I guess it's just not your taste. Like I
guess.
It's
But
like
my point is that it's not like cinematic. Like there's other, like just any other fighting style. Like there's so many other fighting styles. But the thing is, because they're doing this movie, like they have to use those fighting styles because whatever, it's about that culture. But I'm just saying, just in general, like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know a lot about like different fighting styles. But I just know that there's so many others that are so much, like choreographing like a fight scene, like
yeah,
get creative with it. Like I don't know. I mean, the bus scene is the closest that I feel like I would say that was the most entertaining fight scene, because they're using the environment that they're in, But all the other fight scenes, well, I mean, I guess the one on the building, like the skyscraper scene, to me was boring too.
yeah,
Most of it was just like hand-to-hand combat, just like and then people falling down and swinging from rafters, from whatever supports, and I don't know. It wasn't like John Wick. It's like it's entertaining, but I don't know. I haven't seen the John Wick films recently enough to like tell you why, but it's just like they're creative. Like even
Yeah.
well, let's take the Matrix for example. Like maybe it is just that fighting style, because even the Matrix films, but I know I'm not the only one that criticize like this, especially the sequels of the Matrix. Like the fighting is just boring. Like it gets boring and repetitive because it's all that like kung fu type fighting,
Yeah.
where it just looks like they're. But in the Matrix, it kind of makes sense because they're, you know, like that the first scene where Neo, he just like gets all the programming like loaded up into his brain, and the things that he's fighting are also computer programs. So it kind of makes sense. Like that fighting style actually kind of works in that situation because it's two
Yeah.
computers. You know, it's like computer
The
programs
precision of
fighting
it.
each other. Yeah, the speed and the precision, the fact that that would happen, and they wouldn't just like accidentally, you know, knock themselves off guard, and or they wouldn't just be flapping their hands at each other. It makes sense. But in real life, I just cannot buy that. But like I don't know, like Jackie Chan for example. Like I have not seen a lot of Jackie Chan films, but from what I have seen, he uses like the entertaining parts of it are how he uses like the surroundings, the environment, like as
Yeah.
part of the fight scenes so creatively. And it's dynamic. Like he uses, you know, like he'll be in a place, you know, whatever, and there's a broom nearby, and he'll grab the broom and he'll use that, you know, in the fight scene, and he'll change up his fighting style, like using that prop or like, you know, whatever set that he's on, like that will change the fight. But in this
Yeah.
movie, it didn't. So I mean,
Yeah.
except maybe the bus, you could say, but I don't know. Wasn't
Yeah.
enough. Wasn't enough for me.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. It doesn't hit the points or the heights of a Jackie Chan film. I guess I'm just arguing that it gets way closer than, yeah, like I said, it gets way closer than I thought it would ever get. Um, but yeah, like I enjoyed all the fights. I mean, besides the bus sequence, and I mean, no, yeah, I enjoyed all the fights. Like
You-
like none of them did like anything exceptionally like creative. How you're saying, like obviously if this had Jackie Chan in it, it would be like a fucking 10 out of 10 because he is just like a genius. Like just everything he
but
touches
yeah,
is gold when it comes to his choreography. But I enjoyed this, and I liked how the main actor Simu Liu, he actually is a stunt. He was a stunt actor before, and
hmm
like he's done a few smaller roles before this. But it was nice seeing him actually do a lot of his own fights, and it for me it made it more real, and I think that's why it probably got closer than I think most Western films get, because in most films you have to shoot a certain way and cut a certain way, which I think is more your style, where it's more, you know, you're increasing the speed of the impacts, you know, with an edit or with the shot design. So like you're getting closer shots, tighter shots of action, reaction, you know, the impacts and then the recoils. Uh, where this was shot way more wide, which I think is what was primarily probably the thing that bothered you, is that it's more, you know, it's just a wider view, so you
hmm
are just seeing two people, and like in your mind they're playing patty
Patty.
cake. But in my mind I'm like, oh shit, this is awesome, like that's the actual actor, you know, fucking nailing his beats, and you know, like selling that impact and hit. So yeah.
Don't they do? I mean, in the John Wick movies, don't they do a lot of like no cut, you know, fight scenes? I mean, I know
Hmm.
it's a lot of just shooting guns, but still,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I mean, I don't mind that. That's impressive to me when they do it in
Yeah.
one shot or like less cuts. I like
Yeah.
that, but they got to do something creative with it. That's what
Yeah.
makes it like stunning, is when like they pull off a one shot fight scene and you're like, whoa, like they had to do all of these things, you know, all these different actors had to hit their, like you said, like hit their mark. And but when it's just two people, like I don't know, I just keep thinking of the Star Wars examples, like when it's just two people, just at close quarters, just, you know, whatever, doing their strikes and stuff, and I just imagine them in the green screen studio rehearsing, you know, over and over, and I'm just like, ah, like there's nothing, there's no, it's not dynamic, like
Yeah.
especially, I guess the example that I'm thinking of are just I mean, really, it's just that fight. There's only really 3 fight scenes in the movie, like where it's. I mean, there's the battle scene, but that's to me that was very generic Marvel. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
we're in a field and two teams are just running at each other. You know, it's like, oh, that's super Marvel. But you've got the bus scene, which I'll give you, that was entertaining, I guess. And then the skyscraper scene, and then the end fight scene with the father and the son, which at least had the ring element, you know, the 10 rings, which I thought was so semi interesting. But well, and then you have the crouching tiger, hidden dragon, father and his wife meeting. But oh man, especially the skyscraper scene. That's where I was just like, oh my god, this is just so much missed opportunity for interesting fight scene here in a skyscraper. But instead, it was just the typical, like I said, 2 guys close quarters, or it was like people falling out of windows and into windows and falling onto scaffolding, and I don't know.
And see that's like the mark. Like if a Marvel film were to like do like let's say if a Jackie Chan level kind of film, like that would be real, like a real building. You know, it'd be like Tom Cruise hanging on the side of it, but it's like a legit scaffold.
Sure.
And then that would, you know, because that whole segment's obviously like CGI, and they probably just have like 2 levels of scaffolding in some studio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if they were to ever reach that marker where they're using practical sets more, I think that would just completely blow my mind.
And that's why I don't give them any excuse, because it's Disney, it's Marvel Disney. Like they have unlimited resources. They could hire Jackie Chan. They could hire the best choreographers in the world. They could build sets. They could build real sets. They could do anything they want. You know, so I think that's why I give it even less credit, because they could have made that movie. Yeah. But they probably, you know, they're just I don't know. It's just they're just in a formula, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But I did like the final scene with the son and dad fighting. I didn't really enjoy the CGI-ness of it. But then, like, as the fight progressed and how you were saying, like, how they used the rings, like, I started, like, oh, actually, like, this isn't that bad. And it was interesting seeing how they kind of creatively used the rings instead of just doing, you know, like, force punches or whatever. Like, they were more, like, floating objects. And that's what really, like, hit my nostalgia bone for, like, Dragon Ball Z, and just, like, using, like outlandish just movements and powers, and I'm like, oh man, like I just want to watch a Dragon Ball Z movie.
You know what I was thinking? Oh god, I just thought of this comparison. All right, you know in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the character, I'm the worst at actor names, but the character that whistles and has the arrows that can, or the missiles that can just kill like 20 people in a second by just going through all their heads.
Zondu or something. Yondu.
Yeah. I was just thinking throughout the movie, like these rings could be way scarier, but they're not for some. It's like he didn't really use them that way, in a way that I would think, like you have 10 rings, 10 separate missiles that you could use. You could kill 10 people in like a split second. You could, you know, and just multiply that. And so I was like, this should be more scary, but I feel like they didn't really show me. They didn't show good examples of how these rings could be that scary. Yeah. And then I was also thinking, like, let's say he shot these rings at even a really powerful opponent. Like if he shot all 10 of these rings at them at once, at 10 different spots on their body, like coming from 10 different directions, there's no. There would have no hope. Like I was thinking that at the end scene and that fight scene, but then, you know, he stopped them with the wind airbender abilities that his mom taught him, and I was like, okay, I guess he can defend with that power, and that makes sense. But anybody else would be screwed. So I was just like, dude, this guy way more powerful than this movie is like even showing him. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I guess there was that one part, I guess in the beginning part that you didn't
Yeah,
like. They kind of, because he like jumps into like a army pit, like a little mosh pit, and he just kills them all by himself
true.
while his
Yeah,
army is just like hanging out.
that's true. That's true. That scene does sort of establish that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they would have. See, like, I think the film has a lot of room to grow. Like, I feel like like, if they had the unlimited freedoms, which they, financially, technically do. But like if I could have directed this, oh my god, man, like I would have gone so hard. Like, like I was thinking, like now that you're talking about the rings, for some reason I was thinking about at the end of Rogue One, since we brought up Star Wars a lot. There's that scene where it shows like Darth Vader just like destroying
Oh yeah.
like 5 guards, and it felt like menacing. Like I really like, and this film has a scene that gets close to it, but I can tell like maybe there was some hesitancy from Marvel or Disney to kind of not show this guy slaughtering like 12 people in a bar, and the camera kind of like panned to like a dusty or broken mirror reflection, and you kind of see it. Like I would have loved to have just seen a shot kind of similar to like that Darth Vader thing where he just walks in and is just slaughtering everyone. And like I would have shot it where we're just looking at the kid and you just hear the sounds and you see like everything being flung apart, and he's just walking down a hallway just like how you're saying, like shooting the rings like cannons and just like just mowing everyone down, and maybe there's like blood splashing on the kid. Or I don't know. Like
They had to
I
keep
think,
it PG-13. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the limitation of it.
but
like-
I mean, the way he handled it was good. Like I did like that scene. I wish it would have pushed darker, but I think that's just like a natural tendency, is that I like everything burnt. But I like how he handled that scene. Like especially the ending moment where there's like a dead guy that he throws, or like he throws a live guy towards that mirror that we're looking at, and then he walks up to him, and the kid's looking, and he's all like scared, and then he like shoots like one of the rings, like implying that he just like headshotted this guy. And I was like, oh, there was a kid behind me who was like loving the film, and I could hear him gasp when that happened. And I was like, holy fuck, that kid just got traumatized.
Yeah, no, I did like that. There was like a little moment or like a pause that where he looked at his son. I was like, yeah, I did that. Like, but I don't know. Yeah, there was a little moment that was nice.
Yeah.
Acting moment from him. He was honestly the dad character. He was the best actor of the movie, and he was the best character of the movie. But
Yeah.
they just made him a little bit too stupid at the end or something.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, because that's something I guess we can jump into. I guess one thing that I wish was in the film is that it's implied that the son, when he's like 15, finds the killer of his mom, and then he goes and kills. It's implied that he kills that person.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why we didn't see that. Like, if we would have seen that, like that would have completed the whole arc, because we saw flashbacks of everything else.
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's
why
true.
didn't we? And I don't know if maybe that's also like a bigger, higher power interfering. And it was
Yeah,
like, well,
like,
we
let's
can't
not
show
get-
the hero
Right.
killing someone. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That does feel like that, because you're right. There's so many flashbacks, and
Yeah.
it's like that would have been such a great character moment to see how he is reacting to that. Like, what was he like in that scene, in that moment? Yeah.
Yeah, because I like the little strand of the cyclical violence, and I would have loved for the teenage Shang-Chi going to this person who killed his mother, right? Going into the house, and I would have played it really dark and like kind of like an invasion, like a home invasion, like he's an assassin going in, like a ninja. And then as he's like going through the house, you could have shown that this guy killed his mom because his father killed his whole family, like kids, wife, fucking grandmother, like because the dude was like a fucking just a tyrant, before he met Shang-Chi's mother.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool for the guy who killed his mom to be begging him, like saying like, "Hey, I just had to do something or whatever," and then see the son end up killing him, continuing that like cycle of violence. And I don't know, that would have been cool. And then it would have been cool because it's implied at the end of this film that the sister is like taking up the evil mantle of the Ten Ring Society. So it's cool, like you could have them invert where one person was the bad guy, and then like, because I feel like the whole reasoning of him running away and hiding, like I felt like it would have been way more potent if it was more based on a trauma, like he's traumatized with the fact that he killed this guy, and like
Yeah.
maybe the way he killed him was caught, like maybe he stabbed him in the throat, and instead of it being like a clean kill shot, it's like a bubbling, bleeding death, and the guy's just like begging for like mercy. Like I would have dug pretty hard, but that's the kind of shit I like.
Yeah, Marvel. But yeah, I guarantee it was like something like that. Well, they want this to reach the widest audience possible. So
Yeah.
and
So
it doesn't. I mean, China has restrictions on violence probably in their movies.
Yeah.
So be careful about that.
So what did you? So your biggest problem with the father was the end. Was it specifically the
Okay.
mother stuff?
Well, no, that made sense. That at first that he would be motivated by that, but it was the point where, okay, the village people tell our main person, the main character, the whole story, the very cliche story in my opinion, about what's happening, and they know that the voices that these monsters lure people in with the voices. Was there any indication that I missed that those village people had just contacted the father and told him all of this? I mean, I know they tell him sort of real quick when he arrives with his army, but they didn't do it in a very good way, in a very effective way. And I'm like, this guy has been, okay, first of all, he's been around 1,000 years, and he seems intelligent. He seems calculating and doesn't seem like the type of guy that would be super swayed by his emotions versus his intellect. I understand it's his wife and she died tragically and everything. But like, it just seems like if someone from the village had told him the story exactly like they told the main character, he would have had a moment of hesitation or like second guess. So I'm just like, why wouldn't they? Because they're aware, the village is somehow aware that he is, like when they tell that story, like it seems like they're aware that he is coming, and he is. So it seems like they would have attempted to do that, but then you wouldn't have the movie. And then there's a second moment where he arrives at the village. They had a little battle. He walks into the village main building, and he sees the shrine of the dead wife. And again, I'm like, all right, he's heard them tell the story. He's heard his own son say, my mom is not here. She's dead. And then he sees the shrine that they've set up for her. And I'm like, would he not hesitate at that point to think, oh, wait a second, like they have a shrine here in this hidden village for her. Like, why would they bother to set that up if she was just a prisoner here? Then again, I was like, all right, is he going to hesitate? No. And then once he gets to the gate and he starts trying to break the gate open, and it just unleashes these obviously evil looking creatures that fly out and start sucking people's souls out of them. The third time where I'm like, did he not see that and see like, okay, like I'm just unlocking an evil creature here. Like my wife is not behind this door. This is just a voice. So I was just like, this character would realize at some point. And then I thought, how they have the people fighting, and then they do decide to work together when they see the evil creatures. And I was like, look at that. That's kind of that they attempted to subvert expectations there by having them join forces suddenly because they all look up and see these evil creatures stealing souls. And I was like, yeah, probably this character, the dad character, would also at some point realize, and maybe they could all work together to do something, but then they wouldn't have their big fight. So it was just like, I don't know. So I was just disappointed in what they did with the dad character, who was the most interesting character in the movie.
Yeah. So I think the actual problem is how they handled the rings. So you've seen the Lord of the Rings. So essentially, what's going on with the rings is that it's like the one ring that Frodo wears. So
Yeah.
like that's and I don't think they did a well enough job planting the idea that these rings are manipulating his psyche and that he is like
Yeah.
insane. Just like how in the Lord of the Rings, you have
So
that final climax in Mordor where he's like literally biting or they're like biting each other's fingers off, like because it's that level of insanity that they would just fucking just kill each other for the ring. And I think that's what's happening with this character because they do say it that the rings are warping his brain, but we never really, I guess, as an audience, we never experienced that through his
right.
perspective, and it's not highlighted enough. Like if you watch the 3 Lord of the Rings films, it's like every chance they have where he puts on the rings, you see the distorted conscious that's happening to
Yes,
him.
it's very
And,
obvious. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's the big writing problem, is that they didn't plant that enough. Because if they were to do that, then you'd be like, oh yeah, he's gone
Yeah, because
bananas.
he just seemed totally in control and calculated and cold the whole movie, but
Yeah,
not at the end when it mattered.
and
But
and that
yeah,
would have
I mean that
that
makes
would have
sense. But that makes sense. But yeah, God, they didn't establish that very well at all.
yeah, they literally just said it in a line, and that would have been another visual and emotional element. Like you could have had like a full blown like fucking panic attack level type shit where he is just like going crazy because he needs his wife. Like that ending, he shouldn't have really been him. Like with his
Mm-hmm.
fight with the son, like I wish he was a little more deranged. Like I
Mm.
wish the escalation of his emotions would peak with uh, the reality of what's happening. Because that would have been cool if he would have been like kind of like I'm thinking about like Scar in like the
Yeah.
Lion King where he's like taunting Simba in that final battle, and he's like, "You killed your father." Like he could have done that with like, and he does say it like, where were you when your mom died? But I wish he would have dug deeper because he's full blown villain now. Like that would have been a cool.
And
Uh,
also, that line was stupid because wasn't he? He was just like a child. He was a tiny child. Like I don't know. I was like, wait a
yeah,
second, wasn't he a little kid? What? Doesn't the dad know that? I don't know. But
and see, like what I would have done is I would have had the son actually try to fight the people off, like try to intervene,
yeah,
like and have them like beat the kid or whatever, and then that would highlight the when the father comes, and it's like you were too weak, and like it,
yeah,
and that's where you see the distortion of reality. It's like dude, he's a kid, but
right.
the father's like, well, you should have been a stronger kid, and then that would have enhance the effects of the father like getting people to just beat him with a stick as he's aging in a quick montage and then like that would have him punching the wooden block would have been like, oh, he's like re-experiencing that trauma, and he's like, never again will I like give up when I'm beaten to a pulp.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could have established it for sure. Uh,
Man, I wish I could be like a script doctor. Like if I could just get some of these scripts and like, all right, let me just fucking, pump this puppy up right here, take that out, let's put this in, let's
yeah.
kill this person. How much blood can we get in here?
Okay, like, can I just like looking at my notes, like, there's so many things that it's like I know they did it because of the type of movie that they're making, but you just, I guess you have to suspend your disbelief. But why didn't the dad just bring a bunch of guns to the village? Like,
Yeah.
there are no guns in this movie, and it's like it takes place in present day, and he brought these high tech, whatever electric things to like wrap people up. So that was making me think, oh, is he trying to be like, like he still has a heart, so he doesn't want to kill these people. He just wants to subdue them. I don't know. Did
Yeah.
you get that from that?
I
Or
think that's the danger of it's like yeah, I didn't like that either. Like all the goons were like they looked horrible. Like they looked like like a 90s like a riot police, like some foreign 90s riot police gear that you would see in like an old European film. Uh, and yeah, I don't know why they went with that. Like I felt the same exact thing. Like you haven't seen Black Panther, but like it also ends in a big, army battle,
Yeah.
and it's just not it's not visually climactic because
Yeah.
like none of the characters feel like authentic. Like I don't believe that if he controls this terrorist organization that they would dress like that one and look like that too. And then why would they use such excessive like electric poles like that all that weaponry looked dumb. What I wish they would have done, because I mean they're using the Asian culture, like just go full ninja and like have modern ninjas and like more like how John Wick, like you've seen the John Wick movies, so like more like how those assassins look like normal pedestrians, and then out of nowhere they like bring out a knife and they just start stabbing people, like, and then when they do use guns it's like silenced. I don't think I would have used guns because I would have leaned more into the kung fu.
I know.
But I would have used small blades, like it would have been like a like concealment. And I think that would have been way more terrifying, is that they're in the club and instead of fucking uh fucking riot police people rappelling down from the rooftop, I would just have like just suddenly the music cuts off and then half of the audience in this bar just turns and faces him,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh shit, like all these people are like fucking moles in this and like, and that would have been more visual, it would have been more emotional, it would have made sense, it would have hit the Asian culture a little more, because yeah. And then like I don't understand why the main big guy villain with his blade, like why he was like the one, like I don't know, he looked kind of like European descent or something, like kind of like your typical like big Russian guy or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he was like that person. And they had like this one ninja person with like the face, it was like a white face mask. And I was like, why didn't all the villains, like if you weren't going to go with like what I'm saying, like they blend in, then why didn't you go with like super cool, like those kind of masks, and like each one has like different masks? And like why wasn't that person the main antagonist versus this, big dude?
Yeah. Sword hand.
Yeah, sword hand.
Yeah. And then also, speaking of those two people, like I know the dad has that line about, like, yeah, I told them that they wouldn't be able to kill you, like, about the son. But what was his plan exactly? Because I don't know, maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, but like I didn't quite understand his plan. Like did he need those the two he needed? I was assuming he needed the two necklaces, right?
Yeah.
To put into the dragon thing in order to unlock the map, in order to get to the village. So like, but then he acts like he wanted the son to come so that they could be together, so that the family could be together again.
Yeah.
But then it's like, why did he send the people to kill the son? Was he just lying? Like, now that the son was there, was he just lying about that?
Yeah. So
because the son came voluntarily, like to because he knew his sister would be in danger. So I was like, what? Wait a second! Don't act like you planned this. Like, you were just sending the people to get the necklace, and that's it. And then he acted like, oh yes, I wanted you all to come here because you're part of my plan to, as a family, we're going to do this. But then he just locks them up, and it's just, I don't know. I was very, very confused about his plan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So his plan was, and what he executed was, he sent Shang-Chi a postcard with the dragon on it with the address of where the sister lives. And that's kind of like the beginning of the film. And then he sends these goons to steal his pendant because he needs the two pendants to see the map. Which that's like the stuff I dislike in a lot of these films, is like the, over plot. Like there always has to be a MacGuffin or two MacGuffins, and then you need the MacGuffin for the other MacGuffin, and then that MacGuffin unlocks this MacGuffin,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh my god, so many MacGuffins. Like I wish they would just like cut all that stuff out. But anyways, so he gets the pendant from the son on the bus. He sends the postcard because now he knows, now that I've removed the pendant, the son's going to think, oh, they're going to come after my sister. I need to protect her. So that's going to take him to the sister. And then that way, when he sends the goons to the sister to get her pendant, he can get her pendant and get the son and the sister together and then bring them both back to the compound. So that was his master scheme, was to, to get both of them in the same location, because he already knew where the sister was. So he could have got the sister's pendant first, but he probably knows the sister won't want to go help and rescue the brother, which he knows like the brother probably is like way more kind-hearted, and it's like, oh, he's gonna go to his sister. So,
But yeah, why didn't he? I was thinking that briefly. Like, why didn't he attack the sister first and get her pendant first, and then go after the son? Because like you said, like the sister probably wouldn't have cared to go. She wouldn't have thought, oh my gosh, my brother's in danger, I'm gonna go find him. And we don't even know that the sister knew where the brother was. So it makes sense to attack the sister first, take her pendant, then go find the guy, and get his pendant, and then
yeah.
just take the pendants. Don't leave the siblings. They don't matter. Like, did they matter to his plot? That's what I didn't understand. Like, didn't he need the pendants?
Oh no, yeah. So the final thing was he was gonna get them together, and then that's where like that whole dinner table at the end. He's like,
Yeah.
well, this is what's happening. Your mother is locked behind this gate of her village, and she's being held captive. And then he uses the pendants to like show them that it's real, and that the forest is real, and the village is real, because all that stuff before this moment, the kids thought was just like like folklore
Story.
that that the mother had told him. So
Yeah.
the father's like, see, like it's real. You need to come with me. We'll rescue your mom. And then I guess the father believed that the two children would follow him. And then that's when they're like, no, you're going to burn the city down.
Yeah.
And then, because if I was a father, I wouldn't say that. Like I wouldn't be like, because I think Shang-Chi
Doesn't
is
he
like,
know that they're just normal people? Like, yeah. I don't
yeah.
know.
Like Shang-Chi asks, like, what are we going to do if she's not behind the gate? And he's like, I'll burn the village down. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, like, why? Don't
You
say
gave
that.
it away. Come on, man. Yeah, he's just, and he knows like that. He knows Shang-Chi has just been off living a normal life for 10 years and ran away from after his mission. So it's like, yeah, wasn't the smartest villain.
Yeah. And see, like, that's the other, like, I would tweak that to where it's like, it'd be cool if it's, instead of having an army invade the village, it's just like, the father and the two siblings, and then the main like henchman, which I would have made the white mask ninja face person, and then it's just them four, infiltrating the village, and they're like sneaking in, killing people, kind of like how in the Suicide Squad they like go in that village and like slaughter people.
Oh yeah,
and then it's revealed that they're the good people. Like you could have done that same kind of like twist thing. Not for comedy, but for just pure shock. And then the aunt be like, what are y'all doing here? And then the aunt's fighting all four of them. And then the aunt would be like, your mother's not behind there. He's insane. It's the rings. And then that's when the siblings are like, oh my God, our dad's crazy. And then maybe the dad kills the aunt in front of them. And they're like,
yes,
you don't have to kill anybody.
You're
and
doing it again.
Yeah. So like, and that would have been more, dude, that would have saved probably like $15 million. Because you wouldn't need two armies staring at each other on a like an acre of land in Atlanta, and yeah, it'd have been more emotional, more visual, and you could have spent more time with the main characters, got all the backstory, and then that's when he does his thing with the gate.
Oh my, you've done it again. Yeah, it's just that God. Yep, just keep that secret for a little bit longer, and then they would all end up there anyway. And you eliminate the bad stuff of the stupid battle, and and then they would all still be there the villagers for that final, the dragon creatures coming out and sucking souls and everything.
Yeah.
Yep, you did it.
I did like the idea of the soul sucking stuff. I wish that would have been more like horrifying. I think
Yeah,
it's
it was
just
okay. Hmm.
it's the way they like established the village. Like it just felt like a big stage, even
Yeah,
though it's probably like on real land. Like it felt like a chunk. Like it didn't feel
yeah.
like a lived in village.
No.
How some fantasy films, like if you think about Lord of the Rings, when they go into like the elf village, it doesn't feel like just a big set. It feels like a lived in environment. And then when they are invaded, it's like a big deal because you're seeing a place that is established just being demolished, and
Hmm.
like that adds to the chaos. I would have made the monsters way more like, I don't know. I just think flying monsters aren't as scary as like monsters that can travel on land. Like if they would have had more of like a, or if they would have had more of a like aliens face sucker vibe, because they
Yeah,
kind of
it's like
like
it's sad to say, but like the starfish monsters in Suicide Squad were almost scarier than these monsters, just because they
yeah.
with the way they flew down and yeah, like so fast, and there's so many of them, and they attach to your face.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I didn't like the how the like you're the, well, I mean it's cool like only the dragon weapons can kill them, but
but that's so cliche. That's so cliche. Yeah, the dragon.
yeah.
Oh, when they revealed the armor, the dragon armor and the dragon weapons, I'm like, oh my god, that is such a cliche that doesn't need to be in this. Like, but I get it. They were just trying to fit in everything, all the
Yeah,
cliches.
well, I
And
guess
then
it
riding the way they rode the dragons, I was like, oh my god.
oh
Like,
yeah. I mean that looked cool to me. Again, that's my Dragon Ball Z fandom showing. But like him
yeah.
riding that dragon, there's like a in Dragon Ball Z he has like a puffy cloud that he rides, and it's nice.
Well, it was just too Game of Thrones to me. I was just like, wow.
Oh yeah, they ride dragons in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and it looks exactly the same. It just looks like an actor sitting on a saddle in front of green screens. It's just like, oh man.
And see, this is all right. So going back to how like I wish the village was more of a lived-in area. So like one of the biggest like oh holy shit moments in my cinematic life, and like the trilogy was overall bad, but you've seen The Desolation of Smog, right?
I've only seen parts of that trilogy. I've never watched all those
Oh
movies.
man.
No.
All right. So at the end, can I spoil like the ending of the second
Yeah,
film?
yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the second film, they're on this journey. They go into like Smog's cavern or whatever to get the gold or but anyways, Smog comes out and he's like unleashed, and it's like this like 3 minute sequence where he's just like busts out, and he's like flapping his wings, and it just feels absolutely horrifying. Like the size of him as a dragon, and then like the way his like wings flap, it causes this like almost like when like jets go into like Mach speed, like that
Yeah.
explosion of like high pitch, and then like that like weird thunderous like deep pitch, and it just feels like horrifying. And then like the hobbits come out and they're like, holy shit, what have we done? Because they've unleashed this dragon. And then previous to that, they were in a village, and it was like this waterfront village, and it's all made out of wood and like just prime material for burning. It's like cedar wood just everywhere, just like crispy and dry, like it hasn't rained in months. And then there's just this fire breathing dragon, like just fucking like zoomed in, about to just tear this village up. And it's just like one of the like most horrifying moments in like a lot of films that I've seen, because you're like, holy fuck, it's about to just demolish everything. And you as a viewer, you're like, oh no, like that's bad. Like anticipating, it's like the Hitchcock idea. It's like you have to show them the bomb, and then it's like the whole film is about where it's gonna explode and who's gonna suffer the repercussions or whatever, like the ticking
Yeah.
time bomb. So like I wish they would have established the village into an environment that like when the big beast comes out, it's like, oh fuck, and then show the beast cause mayhem, and then you can add the other beast, because the big one didn't really do anything to the villagers or impact anything, because like that whole fight was like in the water.
Right.
And like that's the beauty of like like kaiju films, or like films with like big monsters like
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's the collateral damage that makes it exciting because you're like, holy fuck. So
Yeah.
I wish I wish they would have done that, and that's something else I would have fought for.
I guess the only other thing that I haven't mentioned that it's just like I I found the main actor really bland. Like he just didn't have much of a personality, so I was kind of like disconnected from him the entire movie. And then Aquafina, I just was annoyed by in this movie. Just the humor didn't work. It was awkward to me. So I was like, God, those are our two main characters, and I don't really like either. Well, I mean, the main character was, I guess, likable in a general bland way, but he didn't have much of a personality, and he didn't have many moments where he was actually able to like act, and like, yeah, he was just very bland, and so
Oh my god,
that was a shame.
So, I just had like a realization of how I would do the. So, like, because you're talking about how the main character is bland, and I would agree. From all the characters in the film, I feel like he has the least development and emotion. Even though he like, I did like a lot of the moments, but I feel like the film weirdly felt like it was the villain's film for like 60%, and then like 50% was Shang-Chi. And it's like all the big emotional arcs were more on the father versus the son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this same exact thing happened in for me in Black Panther, where the villain of Black Panther was like insanely engrossing and interesting and conflicted and dramatic, and then the main character of the Black Panther was a little more like, the good guy. It's like I kind of think of it like the Superman syndrome, where it's like when you have a good person who's just pure goodness. It's like you want
boring.
some sort of tension and yeah. So I was thinking about how earlier I was like, I want to see the Shang-Chi like kill the main character, right?
Right.
And I like how they're like just trying to plant him in the real world, and he's like hanging out with Aquafina, and all they do is get drunk, and they're wasting their time. Like, I really love that because it was like setting like the environment and the mood, and like this is this person. He's just like a, kind of like how Garwin was in the Green Knight. Like he's just a buffoon wasting his time. So what I would have done is I would have liked to spend more time in that and start hinting at that he has a dark past. And like maybe when he gets drunk, he gets in a lot of bar fights, and like Aquafina's like, hey, just stop fighting with people. Like I would have had that be like a little hint, and like he's purposely like getting hit instead of fighting people. Like he'll start a fight, but instead of him beating the crap out of whoever he started the fight with, he lets that person beat him up, and then that would highlight and amplify when Aquafina gets hit in the bus, and then he just like demolishes everyone, and she's like, whoa, this whole time you've been getting your ass beat by like fat people at bars and now suddenly you're like a martial arts master. And then you're like, oh, well, it's because he missed that pain. Like maybe the like him punching that wall. Like I would have had maybe something in his apartment that he punches. Like I don't know, I would have just tied those elements to where it's like all one cohesive, and it's just you as a viewer, you're just getting the backstory as the plot progresses, and you're like, oh, that's why he does all these things. Like, there's like a deeper meaning. So the thing that I came up with was early on, maybe when he gets drunk, he'll go to his apartment and he blacks out. And in his drunken blackout, he would have these nightmares where he's like,
oh yeah,
someone's entering his house with a knife, and they're like trying to kill him. And then it's at the end moment where he realizes, like, and I would have this in the final moment with the father fighting, and like he's more evil is how I would write him, and like blaming him. And then right before like the son beats him up or whatever, like deals like a final blow, the father is like, you think you're better than me or whatever. I was like, but how did it feel when you killed the man responsible? And then we would cut to the moment, like the same nightmare sequence that we've seen the whole time, and you think it's just like he's afraid of something, but then you realize that the person that he's been having the nightmare from the perspective of the person he killed, and instead of it being him in the bed afraid of some guy with a knife approaching him, he sees the person who killed his mother, and then he is the person with the knife, and then he kills him, and then that's when the son, instead of dealing a death blow to his father, he's like, well, I'm not gonna kill you, and then maybe that's when the big dragon kills the dad or something.
Oof.
But
Yep.
but it's like tying those narrative pieces, and then it's like he finally, and then the core theme of the film would be ending the cyclical
Yeah.
thing of violence, because they hint at it multiple times, but I feel like they don't make that the core theme. I feel like the core theme is like family matters or whatever. But like I like the idea of like like something very tangible and specific, and like they had it there. Like you would just have to like kind of reposition things.
I do like that idea. I like how you've reworked it.
Oh man, that would be awesome. And then that would fit with where he was like, he taught me to be an assassin, so I will kill him.
Yeah, because he does say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, if he could just then change that at the very end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then and then he's the changed man, and then his sister is truly the evil one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, like, I like those cheesy lines. Like, I think it's because Dragon Ball Z, like, as a kid, those lines really impact you. Because, like, I don't know. I guess just, like, as a kid, you enjoy those, like, the cheesy melodrama. I guess,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I liked about the writing is the melodramatic, emotional stuff. Like, that line, like, I'm going to kill my father. Like, that's
Yeah.
something
Oh god.
I've
that
heard a
and-
million times in Dragon Ball Z, where it's like Goku or Vegeta or whoever. It's like, I'm gonna get revenge and I will kill them all.
Yeah, but it works in that because that's like a cartoon, and it's like exaggerated. It's
Yeah.
that's what like that's what anime is. But it's like in this kind of movie, it's like, come on. There are so many like the two others that I have here. Like in the notes, it's like when he's got her by the hand and he's like, I'm not leaving you again. It's just like, so like, oh my god, give me a break. And the when the sister character's like, he couldn't look at me because I reminded him of her. It's just like, oh, give me a fucking break. There's just so many. I'm just like, God, come on now. I mean, I just don't think that works in like a live action movie that isn't like a parody. But
Yeah. I guess that's where my nostalgia kicked in, like my nostalgia lens kicked in, and I was like, it's not a live action film. It's a live action recreation of something I loved of my past. It's a live, like if I were to make my Dragon Ball Z thing, it's not a live action film. It's a live action adaptation of an anime, like because it would be impossible to and I think that's the big struggle of any sort of like comic book or video game or board game adaptation into a film, is that what works in another medium never works one-to-one in a film. And when you it's just an interesting
it's just that
challenge.
Marvel's does pretty good at that in general. Like, I mean, like I've never thought about that in other Marvel movies because they've made, at least like the main ones, leading up to the Avengers and everything, is like they made the characters real people. Like they all felt real. And except for the corny quips every once in a while, I mean, their dialogue is very, especially in the Avengers movies, like the main ones, their dialogue's really good in general. And like, it's very precise but not cliche and emotional, and like it feels real. But yeah, this movie just didn't feel real in that same way to me.
Yeah. I think maybe for you it turned up the melodrama too much to where it became unrealistic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not in, they didn't turn it up in ways that were entertaining that I could imagine they could have, like how we talked earlier about like the visuals of the rings and the fight scenes. They didn't turn that up, but they turned it was just the dialogue that was like that.
All right.
But,
so one final question, because I feel like we're kind of wrapped up.
Yeah.
What do you have against Aquafina? Bro.
Like the jokes were annoying or just stupid in this movie. Like the Hotel California thing, and then she brings it back in the middle of the fight scene, and it just my eyes rolled out of my head. And it's just the awkward bro, I want to call it bro humor of her, is just like, It just didn't work in this movie for some reason to me. I don't I don't know if I mean I kind of the farewell, like I
Yeah.
sort of liked her I mean I didn't dislike her that much in that movie.
Yeah.
I guess because it just worked for the world that they were in that movie, but I don't know, it was just a
Yeah.
weird jarring sense of humor for this world, for like you said, this like melodramatic world that they're setting up here. It just didn't. It would be like if in the original Star Wars movies, which is a similar. I was just thinking like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Like what they were trying to do. I mean, the original Star Wars movies very like melodramatic because it's based on like
Like soap operas.
Saturday morning, yeah, like sci-fi soap operas. So yeah, the dialogue is very dramatic, overly dramatic, but it would be like if like Aquafina type humor just randomly showed up in the Star Wars movies. It's just jarring, doesn't match. So I didn't like that. And then
Yeah.
not even just her like the other humor in the movie, like the stupid airplane, like where he's very serious, just talking about his history and his past, and then it just does the stupid like record scratch, interrupt it with the stewardess asking, "Oh, beef or chicken," and it's supposed to be really funny. And I was just like, wow, this is really stupid humor that you could tell was just like, all right, we got to interrupt the seriousness with a little bit of humor for the
Yeah.
audience, or they're losing focus. So that's
Yeah.
my beef.
Well, I'd argue I really like Aquafina. Like I liked her music and her comedy before she became like big into performances. I feel like she
Gotcha.
really blew up with The Farewell and like Crazy Rich Asians and stuff. And I don't know. I like her vibe. It's like a weird. It's like a millennial New Yorker,
Yeah,
like how you're saying, kind of like that bro, kind of yeah, like going to a bar every night kind of humor.
I could
And
see her. I could imagine her in really funny movie. Like I could imagine them making movies around her sense of humor, but I just felt like in this movie it didn't work.
And then I don't know. It was interesting because after I saw Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, man, I really want to see her in like a rom com because I just
Yeah.
like her personality. Like she has this weird, like it's not quirky. It's like almost like this weird because her voice is like so unique to me, and
Yeah.
it's like a like I don't know. It's just there's something about her that's like very interesting to me, and it like she's like the quirky character, but she has this other weird energy that I don't see anyone else do. And like yeah, maybe it's not vibing with this film's general tone, but
Yeah.
I just like her vibe in general. Um,
Gotcha.
and I
Yeah,
liked her jokes.
I'm not dissing her vibe. Not dissing
Yeah.
her vibe in general.
Yeah. I like how she like it's interesting because in this film, well, what's interesting is like it's weird the humor in this like I'm just like doing like a test audience gauge for my theater audience. Like everyone laughed at all the jokes in this film.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is the Marvel that I've experienced all my life. And then it was like in Black Widow, everything was just dead, like the worst, like deadpan silences to everything.
Oh,
And like,
weird.
yeah,
See, and
like
I for sure liked the humor better in Black Widow for some reason, even though it was like in hindsight, it was very like disjointed from what the characters actually were. But for some reason, I just liked the darker humor of that movie. But
yeah.
I don't know.
See, in that film, I felt it was way more written because it's so many. Everyone has humor. Where I like
Yeah,
how
there
in
was
this,
more. You're right.
like in this, the only source of humor
You're
was
right.
Aquafina, which
That was, yeah. I suppose you could see that as an improvement on the
Yeah.
Marvel formula. Yeah.
because of like Shang-Chi and the sister and the father, they never broke their character. Like Aquafina
Right.
was like the weird one with the fanny pack
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
yellow pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review with your thoughts or comments, and if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Cinema.